Amen. Thank you, Lou. Now we're going to move into the principal part of this session. Remember, you might be able to see on your screen two faces from Guatemala. Father Dario Caal, if he can connect, and Edgar Hernandez. They're just going to be listening, don't know much English, but in our next session, they are going to be the dominant presenters and discussing. I discovered, talking with Frank Breen, that he is a scrupulous kind of person. He has used this footprint calculator often, maybe too often. So we're going to ask Frank, what have you discovered over the months and years as you have gone through the footprint calculator? Mike, go ahead. It's yours, Frank.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Bernie. Yeah. Actually, the actual carbon footprint calculator I haven't used. I've been using a different method to try to measure myself. It's called the 3% solution, which I'll explain. First, on this, I've been reading about the environment and use of carbon energy and so forth for 20 years or so. So I've been become quite aware of what's going on. Just first, I want to talk about personal aspects of this problem, but or solutions really. But first, just look at the structural things that have changed in America. The use of air conditioning. Today, 87% of all homes in the U.S. use air conditioning. It accounts for 12% of home energy expenditures and 17% of household electricity expenses. The United States uses more air conditioning than the whole rest of the world combined. So that's one thing contributing structurally to our use of energy. Secondly is the larger homes that we live in. In the year 1960, the average home was 1,000 square feet, and there were 4.5 people per home on average. In 2015, the size of a house was 2,400 square feet with only 2.5 people per house. And those of us who grew up in the 1950s, we remember, right? We had those big families, small houses, small bedrooms, one bathroom for the whole family. And today, much bigger houses, 1 or 2 kids in the home, and maybe 3 bathrooms, 2 or 3 bathrooms, whatever it is. So things have changed. It takes a lot more energy to heat a big house and to cool a big house. And that's another structural problem. The use of cars. We get better gas mileage today in cars. Today, in 2020, the average fuel economy is 25 miles per gallon. In 1975, it was 13 miles per gallon. In 1990, 21 miles per gallon. But we forget we've bought many more cars. There today are, well, in 2018, there were 273 million cars, or not just cars, but all different kinds of automobiles in the United States. In 1990, there were only 193 million. So that's an increase of 80 million motor vehicles, just in, what is that, in less than 30 years. So the fuel economy has gone up, but the number of vehicles have gone up. Also, the number of vehicle miles per car. In 2019, we averaged 13,476 miles per vehicle, which is the most ever in the history of the United States. So in 1962, the average mileage per car was about 7,100 miles. In 1970, it was 11,600. So we're driving more. What it was, with increased fuel economy, we decided, oh, well, we can drive even further. So we've offset whatever gain we got by the better fuel economy by driving more and having more cars. So the other structural thing, of course, is suburban living. Cars made it possible for people to live in the suburbs. and many people drive to work rather than taking mass transport. So those are all structural contributors to our use of an excessive amount of energy here in the United States. Now the personal side, in 2006, I participated in a walk for the environment, and somebody told me about a professor from Tufts who recommended the 3% solution. Reduce your carbon footprint by 1% every year. So I began doing that, and I did very well for the first 5 years. I probably reduced it by 20%. And certainly by the year 2014, when I moved down here to Maryknoll, that would have been 8 years later, I was up to about 30% or slightly more. So that was pretty good. But so I was very happy to have succeeded. I kind of plateaued at 30 to 35%, mainly because I moved here to the big building at Maryknoll. There wasn't much I could do about it. But some of the things I did was I got a vehicle that had much better gas mileage. I've been reducing the amount of miles per year since then. I'm down to maybe about 11,000 miles per year now. I was up to close to 14,000 miles before. In the house I lived in with my mother on Cape Cod, I kept the temperature at a moderate rate in the winter. We just wore sweaters rather than putting the heat way up. I installed all LED lights. We bought a much more efficient boiler for heat and for hot water in our basement. And the state of Massachusetts subsidized it. We got $1,000 back for buying that efficient boiler. I had the whole house insulated. They came in and did that. That was also something, this was in Cape Cod. They had a program where they would insulate your whole house and it would not cost very much. I made sure we had very good windows, all the windows, Anderson windows on all the windows. I planted a number of trees. In stores, I've always been using those cloth bags rather than using plastic or paper bags that the stores give you. So I've been doing that since 2006 as well.
Lois, how's the time?
I'm getting near the end. And I've cut down way on beef intake. That was part of our previous webinar. Eating beef contributes to global warming. We're probably not aware of that. Fewer shopping trips, buying fresh food at here at Maryknoll. They've done a few things. Do I just have one more minute or half a minute?
You have less than, well, you're over. You're over time.
Oh, well, anyway, Maryknoll also has done a number of things to try to, wind power is the big thing. That's how we get electricity. So yeah. Thanks very much on this.
Okay, now, Frank, let me remind you that that was not a confession. You were bragging.
Yeah.
Does Father Confessor, in fact, I'm Father Confessor making observation about this confession, which is more of a bragging session. But anyways, let's turn to another AUSCP member, John.
Bernie, before you do that, if we take 4 minutes per person, it's going to be way more than an hour. So people are going to have to, I'd suggest 2 minutes a person and make people be concise.
Thank you, Lois.
And I'll watch it.
Yeah, you're the king. John, I presume that you did use the footprint calculator. What's your confession?
Can you hear me?
Perfectly well, yes.
All right, here's my confession. My Earth status is 2.2, which is pretty bad. I'm embarrassed, I'm worried, but I'm also inspired and intrigued. And what I realize is that I thought I was doing a lot. When I was over at the Oregon coast before I moved here to Salem, the house I was renting, I worked with the landowner and paid extra to help get solar in. I put solar in, I raised my own garden and raised my own vegetables and food. I got a low mileage car. I did a lot of things that I thought would be helpful, but my ecological footprint is still 3.7. My carbon footprint is 5.6, and my carbon footprint of ecological, whatever that is 52%, which is pretty scary. I overshoot by the middle of July, which tells me that I only have a half a year that I'm contributing in a good, responsible way. So what I'm doing in the meantime is I'm trying to get solar where I am now. I have to work with my landlord on that. I'm also raising my own vegetables again. And I'm trying to use vegetarian meals at least once, maybe twice a week. But I confess my sins that it's really a shock to me that I need 2.2 Earths to live on, which all this while I thought I was a kind of an activist.
Okay, that's time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there a father confessor who would like to ask for clarification? Anybody can be father confessor, even mother confessor. Okay, it sounds like you're all lined up for absolution at the end of the session. Thank you, John. Excuse me, but we have too many here, and not everybody can be confessing. So, and there's only one line. So let's stick with the friends or members of our association. Could we ask, therefore, the young lady from Greater Chicago? What do you have to confess?
You're muted.
That's Marilyn. Marilyn, you're muted. Marilyn, you're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
We still can't hear
Marilyn,
you.
you're muted.
The host can unmute her.
I had a problem. I lost the whole thing. So am I back now? I'm sorry, I lost it. I am also really distressed. I feel I have 1.9 Earths, and 3.2. However, the good news is I did that based on how I usually live, and then I went back and I redid it based on how I'm actually living since March 9th when I've been quarantined, and it came down quite a bit to 1.5, and my it came down to 2.8 as far as the carbon footprint. So the pandemic has helped me reduce my carbon footprint. Quickly, I've been involved in this for some time. Personally, I tried to refuse, reduce, reuse, repurpose, and then recycle. I compost and so forth. I put in new windows and all that in my condo, but there's always more that we could be doing. Thanks to Louis, I now don't, I've cut back on beef. I go with Meatless Mondays. We were able to get Meatless Mondays introduced to our parish. We're having a big creation mass on October 4th, which makes me very happy. I'm very involved in fair trade, whereby fair trade people are sustainable. And so the goods we buy through fair trade, are helping our environment. I think that I'm a part of a lot of green teams, both in the parishes and also in where I live. It's called Go Green Wilmette. Work with them, work with the AUSCP Climate Group, and take, try to listen to my grandkids who teach me a lot. They're the ones who got me going, getting rid of meat in my life, and they are also very concerned. I just came from watching Dan Horan for an hour. I am so
Okay. Lois just cut you off, right, Lois? Did you?
I am. That's what I've been told to do.
Yes, indeed. Does anybody want to respond to Marilyn, the father confessor, asking for clarification?
Let me, this is Frank Fried. Okay.
Yes, go right ahead, Frank.
As the confessor, I would applaud what Marilyn has put before the Lord, and think that it's a reason to give thanks to God for her kids and for her parish that she mentioned, and for the ways that she's dug right in to lower her footprint. Thanks be to God.
Thank you.
Father Frank. Now we're going to listen to a grand sinner confess. None other than Father Jim Hankey, who's a cattle rancher in Texas. Okay, let's hear it. You got to unmute yourself, Jim. Okay.
What do I have to do? Sell all my cows?
Well,
I just saw, either overlooked or ignored whatever the taking the score. But I believe as I got to the end, and I did it so quickly, I was time to start here. I believe I needed 3 planets to live on, or there needed to be 3 planets to continue my way of doing things. I thought I was doing a little bit, you know, recycling and solar panels out here and battery operated lawnmower. But I didn't come out that well, even though I hurriedly took the test and then didn't see the numbers. So I'm not sure what my number is. But I certainly come to a greater appreciation of what should be done and what all this stuff concerning climate change and protecting the environment is about. Things that I never really thought of before having that strong impact. On the good side, I have encouraged others, including my neighbor over here, to recycle their stuff, and I take their recycling to San Antonio, where when I go there with it, as well as my own stuff. So those are a few of the things. You know, I try to watch the temperature and not get too concerned about getting overly warm or overly cool, and watch the thermostat. And I need to keep aware of that. I make pretty many miles going back and forth to San Antonio, which is 100 miles from where I am.
That's time, Jim.
Okay, thank you very much. For these all my sins, I'm truly sorry.
is there a father confessor who asking Jim for clarification? Jim, the cattle rancher? Anyone want to offer him some spiritual advice?
Well, he's in a dilemma because, Jim, I don't know how you're handling the fact that you are a cattle rancher. And what we learned in the Meatless Monday session was how much cattle specifically contribute to the global warming. So maybe as a penance, you could undertake reflecting on that and examining that a little bit more. Wonderful as your herd is.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We will move on then. We have another friend of our association, Joan Miller. Joan, are you there? She must have stepped out. So Joan's there. Louis Pinichario?
Joan was there. She was just muted. Bernie.
It takes me a while to get unmuted.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, I didn't do so well, but I'm kind of in the same spot as Jim. I don't have cows, but I live in a big house that's next to the church that I live in.
Okay.
There I am. That I can't very well move out of. But as far as I try to recycle, I have to drive if I'm to work with the other parish, so I go back and forth there. I don't eat a whole lot of meat or processed food because I live out in the country where we garden and that kind of stuff. My numbers were not good. I'd have to have four planets to live on.
Ouch.
So yeah, right. So
I guess that's how I have to ask for forgiveness.
Okay, do we have comment on that before we get into something from Patty McGrath? Does Father Confessor want to offer her any spiritual advice? Okay, well, just wait for your absolution at the end then, Sister Joan.
Okay.
Here's what I see on the screen. Bob, could you read what Patty McGrath is commenting about the cattle rancher? You got to unmute yourself, Bob. Bob, you got to unmute.
Yes, I have to find, she sent in a chat.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to give up your cattle. They are part of regenerative agriculture. So that's Patty McGrath, and she was on here just a minute ago. I don't know where she disappeared to, but I would hope that she would kind of share what she is presenting there. It's a different perspective.
I'm right here, Bob.
Good.
What is regenerative agriculture?
Okay, regenerative agriculture is a way of mimicking the way Earth developed plains and meadows and our whole ecosystem in North America and actually all over the world. And there's a film called Kiss the Ground. And Kiss the Ground is a very descriptive film about regenerative agriculture. And there's a TED Talk also you can see about a man who used it in Africa where the land was becoming desertified, devoid of trees and all kinds of shrubs, whatever. It was just turning to dust and sand. And it's a way of moving a herd of cattle specifically through a small area for a short period of time, allowing them to break up the ground and fertilize it, and then they are moved to another space. And after 2 or 3 years, there's this whole pattern of an increase in vegetation, and then the vegetation transpires, so it actually brings rain, and that is the natural ecosystem. There were herds of bison all across North America that did this. The herds didn't stick in one spot, they moved around. And that's how all of our plants and trees actually evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. And that's what regenerative agriculture is doing for cattle. And if you don't have cattle or some kind of livestock, you're stuck. If you're a farmer that's just trying to plant wheat for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres, it's not going to work. Regenerative agriculture is integrative, and the people who are using it, no more tilling. They have special equipment now with John Deere that allows people to plant seeds in ground that is not bare. And that new technology means the ground is never bare, so we don't lose soil, and everything is constantly enriching, because that's the natural cycle, to constantly enrich. So that's regenerative agriculture from a person who grows zinnias. I mean, I'm not a farmer.
Does rotational grazing count as a benefit?
What was that? Would what graze?
Rotational grazing, you know, you move them from about 10, 12 acre lot to another half. They move from one place to another every few weeks.
Right. This is actually the same idea, and it's carried a little bit more so that maybe you would graze that herd on 2 acres and move them in less time. But that's the point. That's really the point. And what it says is that in that case, the cattle do not degrade the environment. They keep it alive and they enrich it.
How's our time going?
We're at 2 minutes on that. We are over 2 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is Steve Metzger with us from Columbus, Ohio? He signed up. He's a member of our association. How about Leo Shea, another member, a Marinola? Is he with us?
No.
Are you here, Leo? No, we don't hear Leo. Father David from Florida, step right up to my confessional.
Sure. Hello, everybody. David Engbarth. Actually, I'm a diocesan priest from the Rockford, Illinois diocese, and now retired down here in Largo, Florida, Tampa Bay. I have never heard of the footprint calculator, so I'm kind of like at home plate, but I'd like to get a hold of that and calculate this. I appreciate all the work that you folks have been doing. But just a couple things that strike me real quickly here. One is 2 years ago, I bought an electric car and have been driving an electric car in the Tampa Bay area. I recharge it. It gets about 160 miles to the charge. So I recharge it here at home. Do a lot of recycling here. My miles of driving have been reduced significantly. And I live in a small mobile manufactured home. So those are a couple things that strike me, but how do I get a hold of this footprint calculator?
We sent that to you all in our agenda. I'll resend it to you when our session.
Okay, thanks, Bernie. Thanks.
All right. Any advice for David down there in his mobile home? He seems to have a clean conscience. You seem to have a clean conscience, right?
Well, I don't know about that.
There's no reason to come to confession if you don't have any sins to commit.
Bernie, I'm sure if I took this footprint calculator, I'd see a lot more that I need to work on.
We'll see it tomorrow then in the confessional. Okay. Again, we're favoring those people who register early and who are members of our association. Does one of you, however, really feel the urgency to confess? Just raise your hand and unmute yourself.
Mary.
Mary is? Who's raising their hand?
Lou Finocchiario.
Okay, Lou, unmute you. Mary and Lou, unmute yourself. Okay.
Well, I took the footprint calculator and I compared it with my eating habits now, and it was 1.5, and because I don't eat any meat. And when I went through and checked it again, if I ate lots of meat, it would be 3.9. And we live in a larger house, but we only heat about 900 square feet, both in the wintertime, we like sleeping in cold air, 50 or 60 for me, maybe 60 or 70 for my wife. So that does help. We don't have solar, which would probably help, but I'd also, my apologies, not to come across judgmental or confrontational, note to Jim and Patty, but the kind of agriculture you're describing, and Jim, is drastically different than the suppliers of most animal meat. Factory farming, of which I think 75% of all the cattle are produced on factory farms, with aids to pollution and air problems. Now, chickens and all that stuff, and pigs, it's like 99%. So there is a big difference between factory farming and I would call healthier kind of growing agriculture. But I think that the calculator, in terms of less meat, it's a justice issue in relation to the amount of land that's available for people who are poor to eat, rather than those countries using that land to feed cattle instead.
That's time, Lou.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I see that Matt Russo has a comment. Could you read that out, or he himself? But we just want to remind everybody, once we're done the confession, we are going to get into the question of what solutions can we do? What advocacy can we be engaged in? Is that okay, Matt? We're not neglecting your concern. Okay, well, how's our time going? Remember, we have a full 90 minutes and we are now at halfway through. So there's plenty of time for confessions. Father might want to take a break to go get a swig of gin. So when he comes back to the confessional, we'll continue. Who's going to confess next? I'm not going to name anybody. Just raise your hand.
Jim
Ah,
McCarville
Jim.
is gesturing.
Jim
Oh.
McCarville.
okay, unmute yourself and go ahead.
I thought I would try to make everybody feel good because when I took the test, I needed 4 Earths, and but it was like that was a pre-COVID experience, and the change in my lifestyle. I did not retake it, but I suspect it's somewhere about 2.5 this time, or maybe even lower. Changes forced on me by COVID, but I'm getting used to many of them, and I like them. The nicest thing that I got out of the COVID experience is I moved outside here, and you can see I just spend a lot of time out here thinking about what is happening in all this creation. I've done many of the things of the easier things that have been mentioned on here since then, and change our energy supplier and some things. Still have trouble turning light bulbs off and some many things of that nature. My biggest consumption is travel. I don't know how I will go back once COVID is lifted. I doubt I will do as much as I did before. But the thing, and it does fit into the advocacy. I do teach a class on Laudato Si, but I feel that my biggest failure is active involvement in trying to change our society and our social life. That's it.
Okay, any advice for this would-be confessing? Yeah, no, nobody has any need. Okay, it looks like you also got a clean conscience, Jim. Congratulations. All right, we are at this point 24 people here, and we've heard from probably no more than 8. Does somebody else want to confess, especially those who are moving in the right direction?
Bev.
Bev wants to. Bev, you have to unmute yourself. There you go. There you go.
Well, I was mortified to find out that I would take 1.5 Earths, and since the COVID, it's down to 1.3, but I'm still not happy with that. I drive about 4,300 miles a year, live in a 700 square foot house. I have chickens. I'm a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian since 1968. All my clothes at Salvation Army, except for my underwear. Grow some of my own food. I keep the thermometer at 65 in the winter, and I haven't used air conditioning in 4 years. And I think I'm going to have to buy an electric car. The thing shows up that I the worst thing in my habit is the car, and at 20 miles a day I get pretty much where I need to get, but it's not enough. So I need some moral support to get rid of some moldy money and buy an electric car.
Okay, does Father Confessor have some advice? If nobody else, let me say this. You know, Bev, you really have to be less hard on yourself. A 1.3 Earth is very low for an American, very low. I mean, you're almost ready for beatification. All right, then let's move on to somebody else who would like to confess. Well, it looks like we might be out of penitence then, huh? That's quite all right. In that case, what we're going to do is move to the next session, people, if you can hear me. Remember, on the agenda, it says that since it will be self-evident that life as we know it has no chance for long-term survival if only pursued on the individual level, and that's what we're dealing with now, on the individual level. We have some time now to hear what one or another of us is doing to help our church, our country, or our world move toward equal opportunity for all to survive and prosper. Here's the moment for activists, huh? Please step up and explain what you're doing to advocate for Mother Earth. Just raise your hand and turn on your mic. Okay, Beth?
Well, one of the things we do in my church is that we have a group called Tree Toledo. And we've so far planted 194,349 seedlings. And this is our 6th year on that, trying to get people to plant a tree and let it grow. We have cooperated with a group in the central city to plant an orchard for the neighborhood, and working with the city of Toledo's urban forestry division to make urban forests on the vacant land when a house is removed. Those things, well, and then Toledo has a thing called Toledo Grows, and we're working with them to make community gardens so people can have access to fresh food without going farther than their own block. That's what we're doing these days.
Okay, all right. For sure others have a success story to tell us, huh? Show and tell.
I have, this is Lois. I've been working for, oh my gosh, 10 years now with a group, Pittsburgh. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we need to do a massive sewer fix. And the sewer authority has always wanted to do it by building massive tunnels to hold the stormwater and sewage until it's, well, basically we only have a problem when it's raining, till it stops raining, and then use energy to pump it back up. And so we've been pushing, first of all, for no tunnels. We did not win that, but what we did win is some pretty significant money for green infrastructure to capture the water on site. And a lot of that is increasing green space and just making the whole environment more sustainable. So that's the main thing I've been working on.
Okay, all right. There's a thumbs up, huh? You can do that also on your screen. Steve Metzger, can you hear us? I see you're on telephone. I guess he can't. All right. All right, somebody else like to contribute what you are doing? Jim, could you explain a little bit more about you're giving a class, a course on Laudato Si? Unmute yourself.
Yeah, through the Carnegie Mellon Lifelong Learning Center. We've broken it up into 6 sessions, and the most profound part about it is Laudato Si was not just about the environment. It's about us and our relationship, how we relate to all of this, and the things that we're not aware of is how technology shapes our choices and limits our choices. And Pope Francis just does a fantastic job of helping you get aware of the subconscious reasons for why you do that. And then he does offer a pathway of dialogue to get out of it.
And are they all Catholic who take your course, or not necessarily?
It's about, I would say, 70% Catholic and 30% Jewish.
And another question, if others have questions, Jim, just raise your hand or unmute yourself. What was I going to say? How is things going in the church in Pittsburgh? You got 70% Catholics. Does that show up on the diocesan level or the parish level?
Oh gosh, no. There's on a parish or diocesan level, there's almost no interest in this. It's very difficult to get a program anyplace. We've got a whole speakers bureau that we formed to go out, and we can't find any parishes that will actually host us. So it is a huge challenge for us to try to crack through the parish or the diocesan level. I think I lost Bernie here for a second, so I'll keep talking until I'm told not to.
Oh, okay. Continue. I'm back. I had it.
Okay,
I have my timer on, Jim.
got it.
Yeah, I'm afraid that I don't have the ultimate word there, the last word.
I
Okay,
would
thank you.
add
How
to
about
that.
something else?
Go ahead, Bernie.
No, Lois, do you want to do follow-up?
The only thing I was saying is we have a couple of isolated parishes that are doing some things. Mine is one of them. We do a lot of advocacy, including on the environment through letter writing and things like that. But we also are in the process now of looking at our use of single-use plastics, our use of styrofoam, our use of anything, of really getting rid of all that stuff in the church as well as in our homes.
Okay, very good. Let's see, Joan, let's hear from Joan.
I can share what I'm doing we are doing in our parish is we have a cemetery.
I hope she unfreezes. You're frozen, Joan, but I don't think you can do anything about it. Uh-huh. Well,
Bernie, while she's unfreezing there, Patty McGrath has had her hand up for some time, but it might be a time to say we got a message from Edgar Hernandez from Guatemala, who sends greetings to all, and he's so happy to meet us and know that there are many of us who are thinking about taking care of our common home. I feel in solidarity with you and in my country. We also are trying to work for the care of our environment and our planet. So I thought if everybody might not be meeting their chat, that came into our chat.
uh-huh. We're going to see much about Edgar at our next session, October 15th. All right. Frank, you got to start at the beginning of what Mary Noel is doing. Could you want to continue that?
Oh, just a few things. Yeah, okay, this will be pretty quick. About 3 or 4 years ago, Mary Noel switched their source of electricity to wind power. That's something that New York State has, that you just apply and say that you want to make sure that all electricity distribution to yourself comes from wind power. Mary Noel has done a lot on making water provision much more efficient. Just an example, better shower heads, many different things. And the fact that even won an award from the county for being very efficient in use of water. They've put in new boilers for heat. Now they're still using natural gas, but at least they're very efficient. And so they use less fossil fuel. We're going to build a canopy in our parking lot and put solar panels on it. So the solar electricity that's produced may almost counteract the amount of electricity that we use on our property. And as I said already, the electricity we're using is from wind power. Our new house vehicles, these are vehicles that the house owns, are either hybrid or electric vehicles. And we have a couple of electric charging stations in our parking lot. Let me see. Unfortunately, here's some confession here you wanted. There's still a lot of use of those plastic water bottles, those things from whatever the company is. Apparently a lot of our older men, they want the plastic water rather than the tap water. And food here, a lot of the food because of COVID is served in pre-made plastic containers. So that's an unfortunate thing. Many of our older priests and brothers insist on eating meat 2 or 3 times a day. And here they're elderly. I mean, but that's just where they're coming from. So the institutional actions are good, but some of the personal actions are not so good. These are elderly men. They're caught in their old ways of thinking and ways of acting, and habits don't change very easily. Unfortunately, many of them have cardiovascular diseases or diabetes or both, and still some of them don't want to change. So anyway, that's what Marilyn is doing.
Okay, thanks for confessing for your brother priest there, Frank. Okay, all right. How about solutions, huh? Who feels that they are part of the solution, not part of the problem? Okay, Marilyn?
I just want to recommend, if you could get a hold of Dan Horan's talk that he just gave the hour before this, he talked beautifully about Laudato Si and how our country is one of the few countries in the world that has not accepted this. And in other countries in Europe and South America, Latin America, they have taken it on. So at any rate, but he has some wonderful insights on that. So his talk is well worth hearing. As far as parishes are concerned, I think we have to do a lot more. I think we all have, we do the green teams, and I have found, in some ways I hesitate. Our green team was active, but we didn't do enough parish-wide. But by going to our pastor, he bought into Meatless Mondays, and we talked about it every Sunday all through the season of creation. We gave recipes. We had a lot of fun with it. We'll have the Mass of Creation. If we don't use any, we have all biodegradable paper goods, no styrofoam, no nothing like that. The other thing is, I think this is a very important interfaith issue. I say the Interfaith Power and Light, which is in every state practically, does wonderful things, as does Faith in Place here in Chicago. The interfaith community is remarkable. They're doing a lot more than our Catholic churches, that's for sure. And by joining with the Jewish faith and members of the Muslims and even the Baha'i people here are doing wonderful things. And so I'm learning a lot from them, and I think we should join with them in this effort because they are moving forward on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marilyn, where's that video available?
Well,
Dan Horan?
It was for National NPR, not NPR, I'm sorry, National Catholic Report, NCR, and it's for the Members Forward group. I don't know if you have to be a member of that to get this thing, but Dan Horan was amazing. He gave a 15-minute talk and then took questions, and his knowledge knocks your socks off. I mean, he is just fantastic at what he understands. He gives the Jesuits a hard time because he's a Franciscan, but other than that, I think everybody would love every minute of it. And he is so good on this issue as he is on racism and many other issues.
You should know that Father Dan lives in Chicago, as does Marilyn. All right. Here's something. Patty McGrath is asking, what is your parish, Lois? Because her brother lives in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. And I responded privately, but it's St. Mary Magdalene on the east end of Pittsburgh.
Okay. All right. Very good. Did I see a hand? We're looking for solutions.
Jim.
Patty McGrath has had her hand up, the signal of the hand up in the corner there, Bernie. So you might want to check that out, unless she got her question answered.
That was just to make a comment on regenerative agriculture. But I could bring up one thing because Francis mentioned the replacement of their boilers with still natural gas, which does produce methane at the point of getting the natural gas that is 40 to 80 times more toxic than CO2. So we need to really look at what we're doing there. But I had an occasion for my 40-year-old home to have the oil burner go out and had to be replaced. And so I took the chance to do geothermal wells that were dug in front of my dining room window. And they dug 2 wells, and that circulates 55-degree water at all times into the heat exchanger. And so now the house runs on solar energy, which I buy through community solar that I got through Interfaith Power and Light. And so it's about as non-fossil as I can get it. And I'm very, very happy with the new, not oil burner, the new heating and cooling system.
Great. Okay, Ben. Hey, is Matt, okay. Well, we want to hear from Matt because he was the one who was concerned about advocacy. Are you still with us, Matt? Just want to know. Huh. Oh, well. So your hand is up there, Frank. What is it?
Yeah, we had a very good presentation in the neighboring parish of Croton on that geothermal energy, and even Westchester County is trying to promote it. I didn't think this was possible, but then when we got the explanation, many households can use geothermal energy, and it does both air conditioning in the summer and heating in the winter.
There's some guy at the door, but he's knocking on the garage door. I don't know. Did you?
Somebody else hearing here.
Bob, can you control that some way? Okay, so are you done there? You would like to develop that more, Frank?
But whether a big institution, you know, we have huge buildings here at Maryknoll, can use geothermal energy, I'm not sure. It can, huh? It can be used. Maybe I'll introduce it. I have some of the information from that talk we were given, but it's a way for us to go in the United States and to get off all these fossil fuels.
Thank you, Frank. Again, is Matt around? Okay, Matt wanted us to get into advocacy.
He seems not to be on the list anymore at this point, Bernie.
That's too bad. Hey, down in the corner, you see Father Dario Kaal is there. People are walking by. There he is. You see him, people? We'll see more of him on October 15th. He's a real Kekchi, a Mayan Kekchi. Yeah. Okay, fine. But let's continue now. We're looking for advocacy. We're looking for solutions. Okay, how about it, Nelson? Father Nelson?
Living in a place where it's hard to make changes, but in the past, when I was in the Bronx in the parish, we did put in a green roof on our school. The soil was made, 60% of the soil was styrofoam. It was a specially used soil. So it allowed us to put in a deeper soil than we normally would. The insulation was really excellent. In the school, we also got rid of all of the toilets. For a lot of reasons, we put them outside, nobody picked them up. It's interesting. So, you know, changing the toilets is another way to save a lot of water. We also did the simple things of insulating the walls. One of our men also started to put foam on some dead parts of the church walls and then painted them over. And that also cut down on the heat tremendously, need of heat inside the church. So those were a couple of things we did.
Aren't we curious what they do when they have to go?
What?
You said you threw out the toilets.
Yeah, city picked them up.
I mean, what do kids do when they have to go?
Well, we replaced them with new toilets,
okay.
With water efficient toilets.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Solutions. Thank you, Nelson. Solutions. Well, let me give one solution I'm seeking. We are waiting for a new bishop. Our bishop was moved up to Cleveland. The Diocese of Greensburg, Pennsylvania has no bishop right now. I've written a letter to Pope Francis describing the type of bishop we need. And one of the things that I say we need is what we already heard from. A bishop who is going to push both the clergy and the faithful to at least read Laudato Si, and then to move in the direction we've been hearing. Nothing is happening in our diocese. Of course, we've got all this fracking going on, these gas lines. I can just walk 15 feet and there's a gas line running through our county and our diocese. So it's going to be hard for any bishop to start talking about what we're talking about, but it has to be done. We're way behind. So please pray. Maybe somebody like Father Nelson could be named our next bishop, huh? Or Father Bonneau could be named our next bishop. Very good. Solutions. All right. Well,
Bernie, one of the things that Matt Russo wrote that perhaps everybody read, but it might speak to the questions you're talking about there. He said that we have to concentrate on personal efforts, but we have to be active in advocacy. And then he talked about, you know, we're regressing by the cutbacks in care for the environment under the current administration. And he asked how many of us are going to vote for a much more green president and support a Democratic campaign. And I think the issue of climate change is one of the major issues that I think the more we can talk with people about that and the need to address it, perhaps with an awareness of what's happening on that front, it might be an action that is worth all of us trying to lift that banner more frequently than perhaps we're doing.
especially leading up to the elections. You're right. Okay, Jim, are you raising your hand or your finger?
Yes, I was just going to comment that well, you mentioned the bishop and wanting someone to really emphasize that, but how many of the priests have much or ever talk about climate change and about environment? How many of the bishops push that for the diocese? Isn't it, I'm afraid, so as far as advocacy, how do we get more people, more priests, bishops to be aware of the situation and talk about it and preach about it? I think we might be, or am I wrong, a select sort of called group who is talking about it, but others out there might go along with administration and say, well, it's all a hoax anyway, or it's not that important. So a need to increase the awareness among the leaders of our church and of our world.
Okay, good. Well, we're counting on you to drag the Archdiocese of San Antonio in the right direction, Jim.
All right.
Jim,
Yeah. Bernie, if it's not an interruption, I might point out for people that Salt and Light Television of Canada, basically, but their stuff is available in the United States, and they did a special video, a movie actually, on the impact of Pope Francis on, amongst other things, the environmental question. And they used the example of El Salvador, which because initially the episcopacy was not supporting what was needed to be done to clean a river that provided the water for 50% of the people of El Salvador. And finally, the bishops did get with it because of Laudato Si. So I think that you know, one of the steps that perhaps we all need to take is to press our bishops more to get that onto their agenda in their diocese.
again, that's going to happen in San Antonio, thanks to Father Jim there. Okay. All right. And well, tell you what, if you feel that we're all talked out and nobody else has a big solution, boy, Patty, you've got a lot of solutions, but let's hear this one.
Well, when I look at advocacy now, what I'm involved with is racial justice, because since the murder of George Floyd, that has just, it's an overarching issue. So it affects the election, but the other thing it affects is minimum wage and a just wage. A just wage, if you're going to talk about Black Lives Matter and give more power to people of color, they have to be able to have enough of an income to be able to have time to make some noise and to get in the way. So it's all the issues are like all wrapped up together.
Right.
So my environmental awareness and advocacy is subliminated right now to racial justice and living wage and lack of holding back projects that would pollute sacrifice zones where Black people live. Their children have much more asthma than white children. Because why? Because they live near places that are industrialized to the point of being toxic. So all kinds of toxic projects are planned that just so happen to be near where people of color live. Louisiana, the big plastics plant. Frank, your people who want plastic water in plastic bottles. Those plastic manufacturing plants are terrible, absolutely terrible. They're a blight on the planet. And that's what the fossil fuel companies are thinking of doing with their supply, because now all of us are using less gasoline and less heating oil. And they want to do something with it. So all of my advocacy right now is focused on Black Lives Matter and the election.
That's understandable. We should not feel that we have to be one issue people, huh? Yeah, we all have to make the decisions. Thank you, Patty. We're at the, Marilyn?
I just want to second what Patty just said. I think, I just put together a collection of a dozen articles that we can't talk about climate change without addressing racism. And the two have to be discussed together. And you could throw in COVID with that. But I think we really, it's the African and Black community that's been affected most by climate change. First world people are, causing the problems, but it's third world people and then the Black people in our own country who have suffered most. So I think you're absolutely right. We have to put those two things together. And one other comment I wanted to make from Dan Horan, the Chicago guy, is that he said that, he talked about the 20 and 30-year-olds today who are leaving the church in droves. And he said, but amazingly, and he said, down without exception, that group is concerned about climate change. So if we want to reach the 20 and 30-year-olds, they're the ones who are concerned. And I certainly see that in my kids and my grandkids and younger people. So I think it's the young people that we have to engage. And in a parish, you have to rinse this through every committee and every age group. But I think putting the young people on this is the way to get it going.
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, you're such a good timekeeper, Lois. It turns out that we have a excess of time as we approach the end. Thanks for being a good timekeeper.
Yep.
I wonder if we could just ask Father, well, I don't see him anymore. Father Dario, where is he? Did he step aside? ¿Dónde está Padre Dario? Un saludo nomás. Ay, he stepped out. Una palabra, Edgar? Una palabra, por favor. Muy breve.
Sí, muchísimas gracias por habernos invitado pues a esta reunión, y gusto tanto en conocerlos, y les comparto pues que nosotros también estamos con ese mismo pensamiento y sentimiento pues del proyecto que tanto el Papa Francisco como tantos otros pues están con esa lucha y preocupación por el cuidado de nuestra casa común, y también porque es un medio que nos permite pues pensar en nuestras generaciones futuras.
Gracias. He said that all problems come from the United States. Could you please stop putting your knee on our neck? No, that's a free translation. Una palabra, Padre Darío. Una palabra, you have to turn off, hay que encender su micrófono. Oops, I guess he doesn't know how to do that. All right, on the 15th of October, we'll be hearing from him. Well, I think we can wind this all up. There's nothing more on the chat box. You've all had your chance to talk, but you do have to register, once again, if you want to be with us on the 15th of October. And I, for one, am going to be there on the 28th, Bob. Bob Richter really has a great program for us. And he has a solution, a legislative solution that I hope we hear from too. ¿Qué es eso?
No tenés encendido tu micrófono. Ahí.
Oh, I see.
Encendelo y decís unas dos palabras solo para saludar, y Bernardo te lo traduce.
Sí, no tenemos tiempo. Hasta el 15 de octubre. Okay. He doesn't know how to work the microphone, or he doesn't even have a microphone down there in La Tinta. That's where he lives. Well, Bob, do you have anything else you want to do? Otherwise, we're waiting for your absolution.
Mayan solution. Well, I think that the prayer that got us underway was wonderful, and that this was a fruitful, I think, examination of conscience. I know I learned a lot and became more attentive to some of the things that I need to be aware of. And the fact that we're all here merits complete absolution, but it doesn't mean that we can stop. We have to keep working to care for creation. And I hope that all of you who were part of this, I think the more we can care, the more we can move forward with strength. So with that, may God bless and forgive us all.
Okay. Hey, there's Father Darío. He has his microphone. Darío, una sola palabra.
Padre Bernardo.
Hey.
Mucho gusto. Muchas gracias por permitirnos en esta participación.
Ajá. Bueno.
¿Me escuchan? Nos costó un poco por la tecnología.
Sí.
Es muy pobre, pero estamos aquí tratando de ver cómo participamos para octubre. Gracias por todo. Ánimo. Y saludos a todos, ¿eh?
Okay, gracias, Darío. He probably has about one Earth consumption pattern. His people have a half an Earth, you know? Yeah, very good. Well, let us conclude with glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever will be. Hasta la próxima.
Darle agua pura. Magachi, pero
Okay.
La reconciliación.
Entonces, sale octubre.
Sí, hasta octubre, Darío. Sí.
Ven a tu ruang ras foxit di computadora y router mejor.
Bueno, tiene que hablar inglés. Sí.
Padre, conectar, porque eu quero escutar a única escola Guarani. Aham. Conectar agora.
Bueno. Adiós, adiós a todos.
Saludos a todos. Hasta.
Adiós.
Gusto conocerlo. Goodbye. Thank you.
Adiós.
Yo.